Ready? Is the volume okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me out there? Yeah, it works. Okay. Well, good evening, and welcome to the original and historic Rialto Theater. I was real excited when Lisa had told me that we were going to meet here. I grew up in this town and spent a lot of time in to see it. So it was kind of unique for me to be able to come and be with Lisa in this first actually recorded, okay, tonight's going to be the first live show here. So first of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for being here tonight. Love the lights, all the different color lights around. It looks super. Your phones, some of you may want to record or whatever. However, please keep the volume down as Lisa comes up here. I want to say just a little bit. Lisa and Amber created Unexplained Arkansas, the podcast, and began with episode 1, which was the Galloway Gertie Ghost of Harding University on December 17th, 23. They now have 74 episodes and counting. They won 2 ARCAST awards voted on by the listeners in October the 1st. Best female hosted podcast and the best travel podcast. The podcast episodes cover true crime, paranormal, cryptozoology, and anything unexplained in Arkansas or with an Arkansas connection. They've had over 225,000 listeners. We have 50 countries that have listened to episodes. So that means there's a lot of people all around the world that have heard these. Unexplained Arkansas is on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, also on iHeartRadio, and there's other podcast platforms that is being shown. Being the first live show, Lisa has many more live in-person events coming up in 2025. So stay tuned, because she's going to let you know when she is. So without further ado, and before we get those 2 girls down here, to my right, over here to your left, okay, is some posters that they both have signed. That is for purchase. Also, the t-shirts are here. So there's stickers that you put on your bumper, and the posters and the t-shirts. So after this is over with, you're certainly welcome to come and peruse those and purchase those. So at this time, let me ask Lisa if you would come down, please.
This is weird. This is where did Mr. Blaine go?
Oh, right here.
I'm like, where'd you go? Thank you, Mr. Dwayne. And come on down, Amber. Amber's here. Is that Sherry?
Yeah, Sherry.
I see so many fun faces.
Well, hey, y'all.
Well, hello.
This is where we're just going to look at you and talk to you tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to say thank you so much, because we do have so many people, of course, all of you guys that are here, and just all the listeners, the Patreon, like my L, my dad that's never listened, L, all the family that's never listened to the podcast. So now you have to. But thank you so much for coming. Goodness, thanks the city of Searcy, Stephen, and all your staff. Ben earlier helped us out so much. I'm going to forget a million people that helped. Amber, she helped a lot, and goodness.
Your wonderful family.
I know, yes. Dorothy and Dee Dee, and that's for me.
Yeah.
I haven't had sugar in like 39 days, so today's my first cheat day.
She's been unbearable.
Of the event, so
We can get any closer than this.
yeah, I don't think.
We'll start making a weird noise. But yes, thank you, family. My family is sick. They have our endometritis.
We'll see how I feel.
So my other family is my cousin Travis, and then my best friend from childhood, Sherry, who is in the back hiking. So
Not good.
yeah,
Okay, so we're ready. We're ready to get started.
awesome,
Okay.
awesome.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think.
Are we gonna start it out like we usually do, or
Start it out like the original. We'll see how this goes.
okay? All right. What was our name again? Hello, and welcome to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
And this is episode 75. That worked out really well.
Yeah,
Episode
this will be
75. Yeah.
Yay. And this will be called I did call it the White County Courthouse. No, I didn't. It's the Haunted. What did I call it? Yeah. It's, History and Haunts of the White County Courthouse. So that's what I named it officially, okay? Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
I think they're ready. No more, we're not bantering, remember?
Oh, that's right. We got in trouble for that at the very beginning of all this.
We did too much banter.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a live show, and I do a script, guys, and I go by a script, because otherwise you would get a lot of ums and and nobody likes that. It's gonna happen. Okay. Oh, what did I start? Yeah, this is an extra special live show. You're fanning yourself. You're cracking me up. Okay, so the courthouse that you just saw. Can everybody hear? Okay. Let me know if you can. Just wave at me. I'm a little bit blinded, but okay. So the courthouse that you just saw on your way into the theater, and perhaps you parked around it. Raise your hand if you parked around it. I know the Crumbs did because they pulled in on two wheels beside it. Okay, so yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I worked across from it for many, many years and loved it. So it's majestic, it's beautiful, and it is touted and famed as the oldest functional courthouse in the whole state. Maybe the world. I don't know. Do they have courthouses in Russia?
I don't know. I don't know.
Who knows? I doubt we can ask. So it's a really lovely building, but it wasn't always the courthouse that was used, okay? So just, hold on, because there was something else in its place. But since its creation, the courthouse has seen it all. It's seen blood, this is why I'm wearing red, death, it's seen triumphs, it's seen art, it's seen a lot of fires, like how you feel right now.
It is hot in here. I'm sorry. I just got over being sick.
Stephen, can you get it cool? And it's seen justice. Of course, it's a courthouse. We're going to discuss all of that as abbreviated as I get, which we all know how abbreviated that
Which is not weird.
I think you can't move.
I can't move.
Don't move.
I'm stuck.
So, did anyone listen to The Christmas Killer? All 4.5 hours of it? Raise your hand. You had to. You're not the only one that raised your hand. Yay, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to focus first on the actual courthouse history. That's where I'm going to start. So, we've got a little bit of technical.
You just keep going. We'll work with it.
Okay, so in other episodes, we have discussed White County and some of the Searcy history, like the Morris School for Boys episode and the Cobbs episode. So we did talk about White County in those, so I'm not going to go too far into it. And some of that does relate, and relate very much. But does anyone know when Arkansas became a state? Raise your hand. Not you. Anybody else? No? Anybody? Anybody? 1836.
I'm not even from Arkansas.
Very good. This is Matthew, and Matthew knows history.
Yes, I'm on history.
Okay, so find myself. Okay, it was June 15th of 1836. That's when we got statehood. Okay. Now in October of 1835, somehow, okay, think about this. We became White County. Like we were deemed a county before we were deemed a state. Okay. So interesting, but we were like a county, and we were part of Arkansas territory. So we were a territory at that time. Okay, so we weren't a state yet, but we were a county first. I think that's interesting. Did you know that?
I did. I was an Arkansas history teacher. I really was, honestly.
How did you? Does anybody know where White County, like the name came from? No, but that's a good, guess. Yeah. Okay, probably, I don't know. But it was a U.S. senator from Tennessee, and his name was Hugh White. So he's from Tennessee, but he decided to name our county here in Arkansas Territory. That seems a little wrong, right? Just me, maybe. Sounds a little rude. I'm just kidding. Okay, so whenever the Arkansas legislators deemed Searcy, I'm going to air quote that, the county seat, whenever they made that decision, because there were a lot of little towns that were in the running they all wanted to be the county seat, like Judsonia. We love Judsonia, but they just didn't win. Okay? So, sorry. But they were huge in the day.
Yeah, Judsonia was bigger than Searcy for a long time.
We're going to be talking about them tonight, me and Amber. So, but yeah, I'm a little off. Okay, so since its inception, Searcy was known as White Sulphur Springs. Okay? Fran shaking her head, she knew it. So, do you know why White Sulphur Springs? Anybody? Sulphur Springs was a source of school. Okay. So, yeah, and they called that something else, didn't they?
Armstrong.
They called it Armstrong. Yes, but, so we do have a spring, like they called it White Sulphur Springs, because they, at the time, everybody know where Spring Park is, it's kind of over that way. Okay, so we had a spring, it was very big, especially in the 1820s, everybody thought it could heal them, keep them from dying, whatever, so they hung out there, and they had a bathhouse, like a legit bathhouse. People would go and bathe in this spring water, okay? It sounds really gross to me. I mean, I'm just like, I'm sorry. But anyway, just think of Searcy as like a petite version of Hot Springs, okay? So that's what we were. That's really what we wanted to be too. So we were really huge on the. Are you done?
Just don't sit in anybody's lap.
Okay, so we decided, or the people, they decided to change the name of White Sulphur Springs to Searcy in that 1835, okay? So, I don't know why, they just didn't like it. I don't know. There's no explanation. They didn't tell me. But, does anybody know where they got the name Searcy?
Richard Searcy, lawyer.
Yes, yes. You're thinking right, yes. Whoever said Richard Searcy, I heard you. There you go. Yes. So Richard Searcy, and he actually had other things in the state named after him. And he was, he was like a judge, and he did all sorts of things. So yes, he was. And he actually was from Batesville. Go figure. That was his home base. He's actually buried in Batesville.
No, right.
That was his home base. So weird, to imagine that Searcy's a little hot springs, and then it wasn't even called Searcy. So now it is, because they changed it. So Richard had actually just passed away. So I think that was a tribute to him. So he passed away in 1832, and so they changed the name in 1835. Okay? Is everybody with me? Does everybody care?
Is everyone awake?
I can see Elle. I won't talk. Okay, so, yeah, Searcy. So, Richard Searcy, he was a legislator, he was a judge, like I said. He was from Batesville. He was only 38 when he died. That kid's hard, because that's my pretend age. I can't say I'm like 25 anymore, because then people will do the math on that. Okay. So in Batesville, everybody knows where Batesville is. It's beautiful. It's right north of here. We've gone there a lot of times. We haven't done a story there though.
In Batesville?
In Batesville, we haven't done an actual story about Batesville. Oh, they do have the amazing fish house called Fred's Fish.
They do. That's some good fish.
Yeah, we love Fred's Fish House, by the way. Okay, and they do have good pizza down there. I'm getting off base. Okay, so he helped organize the home base, like his home base is Batesville. We're moving on. So now we have a county. We have a city. I saw my dad's songs. I'm gonna call him out. He's done. I'm gonna go sit over there. So basically, we have Searcy. Searcy is named Searcy, and then it is not. We've talked about this before. Searcy is not incorporated. What does that mean?
Having the city government, actual government system together, council here.
Yes. Sometimes they had post offices, but they weren't incorporated. So yes, they didn't have a legitimate government at that time. So Searcy actually, okay, so this is weird to me. They became the county seat in 1835. We kind of did this backwards. They became a state. We became a state in 1836, but Searcy wasn't an incorporated town until 1851. Does that feel backwards? Yes, it does. Can everybody hear me? Can you still hear me? So, yeah. So, 1851. Now, this dude named David, so he decided, okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. So, 16 years later, we became a town. So, we were really the state was in its infancy mode. It is what it is, but it feels backwards. So, we were actually accomplishing a lot, though. And there was a man named David Price. So he was the first permanent settler in Searcy, okay, for self-defense. So he decided that the county could actually use his house to conduct business. So that was, if you want to call it, the official first courthouse. And his house was located where the Oak Grove Cemetery is, on Moore Street.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you guys know where that is? Moore Street? Awesome. It's awesome. The city actually owns this building, but they actually own the cemetery as well. So that was where his home was. That was where the county business was conducted out of his home. So and this was 1837 when they started doing this. So in 1840, the leaders of the county at that time, they needed a bigger space, and I'm sure David was like, get out of my house. Like, this has been going on for years. You guys need your own place. So they built a lovely log cabin as a thank you, in the general area that we are now. So it was said to be in this general area, right across the street-ish. Okay, that's what they said. Do they lie? No.
Politicians never lie.
And guess how much it cost them to build that log home? Anybody? Do what? $3.99? Like $3?
Free.
Oh, free. It was close, but it was $138 to build this log home. My brother's like, I could do that. My brother Jeff could do that. So this area was actually built, so the log home was built on a 10-acre plot, and this was said to be donated land from someone named Crawford Walker. Now this gets a little confusing because some accounts state that actually James Walker donated land, and that would have been like Crawford. I'm stuck.
Your heel is stuck. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh that loud.
I'm gonna have there's all these little cracks that I literally was stuck. That's hilarious. Okay, I'm gonna careful over here. There you go. Am I in the way?
Are we supposed to be seeing slides?
Do what? Oh, yes.
Good God.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Kaden. Okay, one more. Yay, okay. No, go back, sorry. You're not ready for that. Go back to the beginning. Sorry, can you go back? Right there, okay. Okay, you got me overexcited. Okay. So, okay, remember there's a discrepancy. So it says Crawford Walker, it says James Walker. Well, then there comes a man named Israel Moore. Do you know him?
That's a very serious name.
It's a very serious name. He's a serious guy. And he comes from a very serious place. He comes from Philadelphia.
That is serious. That's a serious place.
So he moved into town, and he is a surveyor, and he's actually the one that named many of our first streets. And he named them after places in Philadelphia, or the streets in Philadelphia. There were a couple
Like the Bruce Springsteen song? Streets of Philadelphia. Anybody remember that song? I love that song. Sorry, go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I don't.
It is 9:30. I have a toddler. I'm usually in bed by now.
No, you're usually calling me on FaceTime. Okay, so yeah, he moved into the territory, and he was responsible for plotting out the town, naming the names, and so he got into a dispute with the Walker family because he said the 10 acres were his and it wasn't theirs to give. They went all the way to the Supreme Court, and that's a little iffy because, some accounts say the Arkansas Supreme Court, and some say the Supreme Court of, the United States. So, who knows? I don't even know. But anywho, so they go to the Supreme Court, and they say it's Israel Moore's land. It's not the Walker land, okay? So, sorry, the Walkers are out. They didn't get to donate that land. But Israel Moore was still really nice and obviously civic-minded. So he said, I'm going to agree to this donation. I'm going to go with it. This 10 acres, you can still have it. So it was still given to White County.
How kind of you.
I know, so thank you. I'm sure he just wanted the tax write-off.
Yes. I wish that was
cost a lot of money. Okay, so that was the dispute. So that was the deal. Where am I? Okay, so luckily for Searcy, he was cool with it. He went with it. So we still have this 1840s log cabin. It's just really hard to imagine that situation. But, we were like the frontier land. I mean, we were like
Little House on the Prairie. Daryl, thank you for turning that air on. I was about to end up like that Wicked Witch on that poster out there.
I would love that. Okay. So hard to imagine. So the county utilized that cabin for 10 years. And in 1850, they decided they needed something bigger, so they did build a 2-story frame wooden structure as the courthouse. Not that thing, okay? So it's 1850, they're in a framed situation. Does anybody know where it was? Matthew's looking. Okay. Oh, you're like, okay. So
you keep looking over to the teachers.
I know.
Yeah, the teachers are over there. So.
Yeah. Okay. So it was located where Sal's furniture is. Okay. So everybody know where Sal's is? Yeah. That's where that courthouse was. And this is 1850. Okay. How much did they pay for this thing? Anybody want to take a guess?
$5.
It was $138. Oh, yes. Really? Yeah, okay. So, good job. Dorothy wouldn't have guessed that. Okay, so this was good for a while, okay? And just think about it. There's no cars. There's no streets. There's not paved streets. It's dirt streets. There's no cars. There's animals everywhere. There's no indoor plumbing. This doesn't sound fun. It's like everything that is my nightmare. No flushable toilets.
Flushable toilets.
Okay.
Didn't they redo the street back in the 80s and we could see some of the underneath? Linda, am I imagining that? That's my old boss, Linda, back there. So, she used to be the mayor.
Mayor Belinda. Yes, I remember that because you could step out on the street and just see the brick. And then I like the brick.
I do too.
Okay, so just lots of grossness going on, okay? So within 9 years, in 1859, the county decided they needed and wanted to build a new permanent, like fireproof courthouse. Because as you can imagine, the 1850s of it all, and wood, and no like electricity, what do you think happened a lot of the times? You know? Yeah, it was fire. It was fire city. Okay, so lots of fires going on. A lot of the buildings just burned because they're using like what, gas, oil lamps. I don't know. It sounds horrible. So poor them. Okay, so they wanted in 1859. They really wanted a courthouse. So they put aside $25,000 to build this courthouse, this fireproof courthouse. This is what they want. They approved a plan. So, and they even sold their existing courthouse. Like they sold that two-story frame building. They got rid of it. And in fact, the people moved it. How do you move that back then? Horse and buggy? Anyway,
Good
they moved it, and then they made it into a hotel. So it was called the Borough Hotel. Okay? So we don't have a courthouse, and it's 1859. So we decided in the meantime, we're going to have to hold court in what was the old Masonic Lodge. It's not like that building, the American Legion building. I kind of thought maybe it would be that. It's not. It burned also sometime back then.
Good grief.
But we rented it for $450, like a year. So it was a good thing. So anyway, so we're renting space, and guess what happens?
It catches fire.
What happens in 1861?
Ooh, I know. Does anybody else know?
Civil War. So the Civil War came along, and that kind of obviously it took over our whole country. It took over our whole area, of course, our state. And so the Civil War lasted between 1861 and 1865. So this time period was extremely hard. It was trying. There was fighting, and we're talking very close by.
Yes.
To us. I think you've heard of the Battle of like Whitney Lane and stuff. I was like close. It was very close. So we had a lot of fighting going on. And the war really destroyed a lot of our existing buildings. So it was tough on the area. So Searcy suffered greatly, structurally, financially. We didn't have any money anymore. We're in a war. We couldn't do anything. So the Civil War ends in 1865, and we are devastated. We have no money. We have to kind of rebuild. Now, I will say spiritually, Searcy is doing great. They really were, they described themselves as just a place that would never give up and wanted to better themselves. And I really feel like Searcy continues to do that today. So they were doing great, spiritually. So it doesn't take them too long, actually. So by August of 1869, so 4 years later, they're ready to build their courthouse. And of course, they had proposed $25,000 to build this courthouse before. Do you think it cost that still? Afterwards, no. But they did talk to some people at the N.H. Baldwin, which is the...
I have no clue.
I don't know. It looks like Matthias Harvey Baldwin. He was an architect from Memphis, actually. So we went back to Tennessee. They named us, so whatever. So this would consist of this new structure. This would consist of a first floor with cut stone. So it would be fireproof. They wanted a fireproof vault, and they wanted county offices. So that's what they wanted. And now they're on this page. And then they wanted the second story. They wanted the court. So the second story was going to have a court, and then they wanted a large bell tower with a bell, and the bell actually came from 1855. So the bell actually did resemble the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, okay? That sounded like it was in here. Did it not? Okay. So the entrances of the courthouse made through an arcade of rounded arches with supports, which supports a great pediment temple. Do you see the pediment on the front? Kind of like the White House has the pediment. That's just a very Greek thing. Most of our political buildings have the Greek style. Why do you think that is? Yes, that's one. Yes, they just really like, and they called it a Georgian style as well, but it was a Grecian style building. So the actual architecture, like the Greeks, were very into democracy. So they really liked that. So you do have this courthouse, and they put together this courthouse. This is what they wanted. So, and it's really lovely. They said at the time it was the loveliest courthouse in the whole world. No, they said state. World sounds better. So it's very lovely. It was supposed to be $25,000. I believe it cost somewhere in like $39,000. Okay, so it just cost more by the time they got to build it, which was several years later. So if you'll notice, the 1871 structure doesn't look the same as it does now. What's missing? Do you see it?
It's been added on to now. I have the original picture I have from the front side right here. There's actually a house.
A house
Or a
there.
building in front of it.
Oh, okay.
It's been added on to on each end.
Yes, it has wings. Yes. So it is not the same as what's standing out there right now, okay? But this was done in 1871. So the original courthouse was 1871. So that's where we're at, okay? So, and it was very nice. But how do you think they got to that second story? If anyone's been in there, how do you think they got
A rope and a bucket. I don't know.
I think it was like a horse and a carriage.
I didn't read any of this ahead of time. She just wanted to surprise me.
I know, that's surprising. So they did have, like on the back side, they did have stairs that they built to go up there. So they had to actually go to the outside of the building to get to that second floor. Okay? Yes, that's what they did. And there weren't any bathrooms. Okay, this is 1871, everybody, okay? Yes. Gross. They had like outbuildings. And they were actually pretty, there was something, has anyone read Dr. Muncie's book, the Searcy book? Raise your hand. Dr. Raymond Muncie. Nancy, yes. I mean, it was very interesting. It was a good read. And I will be plugging all of my information, like all of the, what do you call them? My references. I will plug all my references. But he talked about how it was kind of interesting. There was, if you can imagine, everywhere, from animals, it was stinky. Let's just say it was stinky situation. So, and they didn't like it. And look, they've got a fence around. Okay, so 1871, the courthouse. So the courthouse, over the years has been home to the county offices, of course. You had the White County judge has been in there, in and out, different years. The White County judge is not inside the courthouse now. The trial judge, the White County clerk, the treasurers, assessors, I mean, everything, they voted there, like all the voting was done. You couldn't go to the fairgrounds, you couldn't go to the churches. So you had to do everything from this building, okay?
I wonder what their voting procedures were like back then.
Oh, I'm going to talk about that. Mr. Lane. So, and this is before TV, guys. So, I mean, they had nothing to do. So this building was like, they had this was like their community center.
Nothing to do.
No, I mean, they were probably busy, like, gardening. I don't know. Making yeah, growing them. So they would actually have next slide. Let's see okay, so they did, if you'll see that, this is not with the addition, but they did put balconies on the end. Do you see that? So this is pre-additions, but they do have balconies, so you can hang out. One more, Cadence. And thank you, Cadence. Please.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so look at this. At first this looks a little bit...
Is that someone died? Is that someone being murdered in the middle there?
No, so this is...
Are you sure?
Oh my God, this speaker. So this was...
It looks like he's about to be quartered.
I'm going to talk This was a tough man competition. So, do you see that? this is like one of those UFC fights that you watch on like Netflix or something. I don't know where you watch that, but anyway. So this is a tough man. That's cool. So they would also have magicians come by, and they would have all kinds of traveling acts, like people from Italy, like juggling, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so it was very interesting. So look how many people are hanging out there. And do you see all that dirt? It's a dirty situation. Okay, so they were just hanging out at the courthouse, okay, on a Saturday day, because they were going
Kind of like us.
No, but they couldn't do it at night because it was dark. So they didn't have electricity. Okay, no electricity or phone through. Okay, so one little odd tidbit. Oh, this one's fun. Do you want to hear this? Okay, so there was a man named John Neal. Okay, in 1872, he was the town undertaker. Okay, the one and only. He had a shop located kind of to the west side of the courthouse where Leslie's jewelry is. Okay, jewelry. Okay, you know where that is?
Do I? Yeah.
Okay, so he was dabbling with some new science, and he really wanted to embalm someone. Okay. He really wanted to badly. Like, this was a brand new thing. He had heard about it, and he was like, I really want to do this. And everybody was like, no. Nobody
So he was a big weirdo.
He was the undertaker. Okay, so he wanted to practice, and he just thought it would be really nice to be able to try this out because, before this, the body's laid out in the house. Okay, a dead body would lay out in your house. Let that sink in. A dead body in your house. Okay.
Yeah, that practice went on for a long time. Like my grandparents, that was still a practice in the early 1900s. For just Travis, that our great grandparents, that's what they used to do. They just lay it out in the front yard, or the front door.
Well, you would try to pick the coolest spot. Okay, you try to keep them cool because what happens to a dead body that's laid out in your house? It starts. Did anybody listen to my Tony Alama episode?
Oh, yeah.
He just laid her body out and it wasn't gone for a year. And she did start to decay. So, this would only take like 2 days. They start to decay and that's not cool. So,
Can I plug a book since you're plugging books? Gone from the Grave. That is an amazing book. It was written by an Arkansas girl. And you get it on Amazon, Gone from the Grave. And it talks about burial practices and things like setting up with the dead here in Arkansas and the Ozarks. It's a great read. So.
And you can see it at the library. Right?
Yeah, it's in the library.
It is there. And it's a very thick book. I didn't read it all. Okay. It's a great book. I didn't read it all. Okay, so he really wanted to involve people. So there was a Mrs. Frazier. So she passed away, and she didn't have any, she was the cleaning woman for the county jail. And she didn't have any family, okay? And so everyone agreed, it doesn't say who everyone was, but John Neal asked for permission, and I don't know who he asked, maybe one person in the jail. And he was like, can I please embalm her? Can I take care of her? So he did. They let him, and he was super excited. And he was really pleased at how it turned out. So he embalms her. Okay. So guess what he decides to do? He displayed her, right over there, on the porch square, in his window, for 3 weeks.
So he was a big weirdo.
And the town let him. So, they wanted to see that this new science worked. So gross. So anyway, most of the town was super curious about this. If you did that today, I think we'd all be pretty curious about that. So this dead body is up in the window. Poor Mrs. Frazier is on display. She's embalmed. So 3 weeks goes by, and all the small children that have to walk past the building are freaking out. I'm sorry, they're scared. They don't like that. They're not happy. And they're just like, okay, thanks. So do they bury her after the 3 weeks? They don't. They don't bury her. So they just cart her around. So the people at the Robin Sanford building, does everybody know where Robin Sanford is? had parties there now, but they used to like sell stuff, like it was a mercantile, whatever you sell from a mercantile, cotton, whatever you sell. But they put her, Mrs. Frazier, went into their window for like another week or two. Until they buried her. They did finally bury her, guys. Yay! Where did they bury her? Yeah.
That's really disturbing, but very interesting.
It was very interesting. I love that little tidbit. Does anybody else?
Do you think they'll allow that to be put in your will?
That you want to be displayed? I think they would. And I'll give permission. Tell them to call me. John Neal asked my number. He was like, sure. Okay, so that was fun. So the county has a really lovely, beautiful courthouse. Back to courthouse. Sorry, courthouse. So over the next 40 years, there was no major construction on the courthouse. So now we're looking, well, I will say, in 1877, so we're talking 6 years in, the courthouse roof was leaking. Everybody like things. So they did replace, so 6 years in, they replaced the courthouse roof with like a tin roof. Okay, it's not there right now. So they replaced it, it was leaking, there's probably a fire. Who knows? It's down in the fire. Okay, so it's leaking, and then they also, in 1888, they did add some new gas lamps around the courthouse. So then they could stay up late. That's really exciting. And they put up an iron fence. They surrounded the courthouse with an iron fence. But okay, so by now we're jumping ahead because nothing can really happen. So by 1912, the leaders of the White County were ready for some improvements. And it's 1912. Does anybody know when Searcy got their first telephone? Anybody? First telephone. Take a guess.
1908.
I don't know. Oh, Miss Teacher. Okay, so in about 1896, the first telephone. 1896. We got
This is that far off.
We got telephones before we got flushable toilets. Okay, so we had a telephone, and then but you could go downtown. There was like one business in Searcy where you could go 1899 to call long distance, and everybody was listening because they're all on the same line, and everybody knew what they were doing because they were watching. Okay, so 1912. So we're in 1912. So they reached out to a very
I was getting my notes.
You look. Okay, so 1912, they reached out to a very prominent architect in Little Rock this time. So they're like, no more Tennessee. So Little Rock, and his name was Frank Gibb, not related to the Gibb brother.
Like the Fiji Gibb?
Okay, so Gibb had designed, he had already worked on several courthouses, okay? He was very big in the courthouse architectural improvements. He had also done work on the Arkansas State Penitentiary. We covered that in our capital. You did that one in your episode.
Yep.
And you've all listened.
Yep.
So that the Capitol building, yeah, we did that one, so we could go in where the old state penitentiary was. So we discussed that. Not going to discuss it. Okay. So that was episode 60. Goes to the Arkansas Capitol building. Well, okay. He also designed the Buckstaff bathhouse in Hot Springs that still stands. And then he also did the Joseph Taylor Robinson House in Little Rock, which was a huge deal at the time. So I didn't look at it.
I didn't look the asses down.
It was the big to do. So and he would also, I like this. He lived until 1932, so he worked for us in 1912. He lived another 20 years, and he is buried in Mount Holly in Little Rock. If you want to go visit his grave.
Was that the one we went to, the historic? Okay, that was beautiful. If y'all remember.
It is a beautiful cemetery, so check it out. Right there. We'll just stop there. Okay, so he did design 2 3-story north and south wings on the courthouse. This is, so 1912 is when they get their wings. When the courthouse is. I'm about to get stuck in that kind of thing. Okay, so how much do you think this cost?
$5.
They really wanted it to cost $34,600. That's what they wanted it to cost. And they looked far and wide for someone to do it. no one would. So there was a firm in Dallas that came up and said they would, but the final cost landed at $67,000. 12-ish range. Okay, so when they added these wings, they added flushable toilets. Yay! Everybody was excited. Okay, they also added, so they added the plumbing, they added the steam heating, so they had steam heating. So before that, who knows what was going on, okay? So they upgraded, they added another vault. So I did see it myself with my eyes, but they have 2 vaults in the White County Courthouse, okay? One has like the land deeds and the other one is mysterious, and they don't let you look at it. They'll just tell you about it, and then they don't let you in. It was cool. Like, great. Okay, so they got another vault. Oh, they added bathrooms in the basement. They added creepy basements. Okay, so it's really like 4 stories if you count the basement. So it's like basement that you don't see out there, and then it's 3 stories up, and it's stairs. They added stairs, so they didn't have to go outside, guys. So they were super excited. So it cost a lot of money. They did it in 1912. They're so excited. So over the years, I mean, we're talking, it's old. They have to do upgrades. They have to do maintenance. They have to do repairs. It's an old building, okay? So in 1933, the Civil Works Administration, they took care of several repairs on the building. Because in 1928, someone had come to town and said that it was like weather beaten. That's what they call our courthouse, weather beaten. And it cried. Okay, in 1950, the county spent $40,000 repainting the exterior. So in 1950, it got the exterior painted probably for the first time since 1871. And then they spent $3,000 5 years later painting the inside blue. And then they said that was a terrible decision. It is not blue currently. It is
As blue usually is when you're going to paint your walls blue.
I mean, blue is lovely.
Go with neutral.
Until it's not. Okay, it is neutral. Right now it's a creamy cream. So it's really pretty. Okay, so in 1963, the county received $70,000 grant, and then they put along $12,000 of their own funds, and they did some more remodeling restorations. I mean, we're talking, this is 1963. In 1977, the courthouse went on the National Registry of Historic Places. Okay, this was a big to-do. We had to file a lot of paperwork to get this done. And the National Registry is actually pretty new because the National Registry came into existence in 1966. So it was only 11 years later that we decided that Searcy wanted our, courthouse to be on the registry. We were really pleased. Okay, so April 3rd of 1989. Wait for it, guys. I mean, there's probably been a lot of fires before this, but smoke filled the air around the courthouse. Like smoke was billowing out of the courthouse. The custodian at the time, which we'll get into later because there's some tidbits about him. So he was across the street having coffee. Okay, he was not in the building. It was really early on a Monday morning. Okay, so someone called him. They were like, "Hey, the courthouse is on fire. You're the custodian." So they call the fire department. He runs over there. His wife is in the building. They get her out of the building. Luckily, his wife is okay. And, they have to put out the fire. It's a huge fire. Luckily, no one was injured. Okay? However, the second floor, okay, what's in the second floor of the courthouse? The courtroom. It's like a blaze. And by this time, so in 1989, when this happened, so there had been a lot of changes. The 70s were a crazy time, and they had added some weird ceilings in the courtroom, like they had those lowered ceilings, like those tiled ceilings or whatever. I don't know. It was pretty crazy. So all of that was ablaze, and the bathroom, the women's bathroom up there, was destroyed. So the courthouse was pretty destroyed, the courtroom, the bathroom, it was just a mess, okay? Destroyed. So the Searcy police chief at the time, J.R. Thomas. Oh yeah, he was my boss too. He was your boss. Okay. He was my boss. Oh yeah. Okay. So he told reporters that they were investigating, and there was a woman named Paulette Thompson. I'm sorry for relations. But she set the fire allegedly to the courthouse. And they said that it was arson. She said that she just put a little wastebasket
Oh, good Lord.
in the bathroom, no big deal. Well, they found accelerant. Do you know what that means? Yeah, she set that stuff ablaze. Okay, so she was prosecuted. They said the damage was $100,000 worth of damage. She was held on bond, like a $250,000 bond. They said that when she came in, she couldn't remember her name or her date of birth. So, whatever. So I didn't find anything more about her. She was probably good. But she said she didn't do it. Okay, guys? She's just smoking in the bathroom. It happens. So, because of this, the courthouse decided to go ahead and fully renovate and restore the courtroom to its original look, okay? So, it is beautiful. It's quite beautiful. I don't know if I put a picture in here, but will you go to the next slide, please? Oh, isn't it cute? This is like the 1950s, and if you'll look, it says security bank. It wasn't First Security at that time. So, but it does show the wings. The wings are there, and he's posing. And look at those cars. And they do have streets. Okay, next.
I really do like that photo.
Okay,
Not so much that one.
stop there. Okay.
Oh, good Lord.
You're doing a tough man. No, go back. Go back. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so because of the fire, they did restore. They have beautiful wood benches. I did post a picture of the jury box on our Facebook, and so the courthouse now, it is functional, it is used, and it is beautiful. So they raised up the ceilings, they painted beautiful wood floors, beautiful wood everywhere. Okay, it's beautiful. So is it a travesty that it was set on fire? Sure, but we got a really beautiful courtroom out of it, and nobody was hurt, thankfully. Okay, so over the past 35 years since now, so we've had a lot of continual restorations because of its historic registry. Everything on the courthouse is done to keep the integrity of the building. So they are very limited on what they can actually do, just like we talked about the Rialto too. So they have to just be careful with it. Now, they did install a new clock. So we do have a clock tower, and for years and years, the clock didn't work. And we do have pictures ahead, but no, we won't look at those yet, please. Okay, so we'll look at this later. So they replaced the clock in 2012, and they did a whole lot of work on the dome. So the dome is pretty much new as of 2012. Okay, so they did a lot of restoration work. They say the bell has not rung. Like, I worked downtown from 2006 to 2023. It never rang. Did anybody else hear it ring in that time? They said that in the 1990s, it did ring sometimes, sporadically, okay? So one day they do want to get the bell ringing because it's from 1855. That would be cool. So the building is now 154 years old, and it's just magnificent. Me and Amber went all through it. We're going to show you pictures later. Not yet. Okay. So Arkansas, now we're going to get into trials and deaths. Okay, is everybody ready for that? No more history. We're done with the history. Like, yeah. Okay. So Arkansas is still today a capital punishment state, but back in the late 1800s, like, they didn't mess around. Like, they were like, yeah, if you murder someone and you did it, we're going to kill you. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So, and we're not going to just kill you, we're going to hang you. So this is what's going on, okay? We're going to get into this in a second. So, this looks horrible. Okay, so kind of growing up, who around here grew up in Searcy? Did you hear about the hanging tree? Anybody talk about it? And they said it was like around the courthouse, right?
It was over by the station swimming pools.
Someone is jumping ahead. But yeah, but growing up, they talk about how, the hanging tree was allegedly around the courthouse. Allegedly. So, in Dr. Muntz's book, it talks about where it is, really. And so, they did start out, at first, every time they were going to hang someone, they would build gallows. Every single time. They would build them, like, right here by the courthouse. And then, after they hung them, they would have to take them down. Because they were thinking, surely we're not going to do this a lot. And then they figured out they were. So, they got bored of that. And so then they decided to look for trees to use as the hanging trees. So, it does say in Dr. Mutzie's book that one of the very first hanging trees was actually located where Harding campus is. So, around the and that, have you listened to episode 1? Please. Okay. So, in episode 1, we talked about the Galloway Derby, the ghosts of Harding. So, it was the Galloway College, the girls' school, it went through different names, but the Galloway College. So, that's where the original hanging tree was. There was also another hanging tree, and allegedly this is the hanging tree by where the Searcy public pool was. Did anybody swim in that public pool?
God, I didn't.
Yes, so this is where they would hang people, by the public pool, okay? That's what they decided to use, because they were really tired of building and destroying the gallows. So, yes. So they wanted people to be there. They really did. I'm sorry. They wanted everybody to come and check it out, because why? Why did they want everybody to witness the hanging?
So nobody else commits a crime, they get to know.
No, that was the psychology there. They wanted everybody to come. They wanted to be
Now, you're like one of those front row students, aren't you?
Here,
He is. Okay, so it didn't quite work to deter anybody murdering somebody. Okay, so a very infamous case was tried at the White County Courthouse in 1877, and we did an episode about it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it took me a second.
The Cobbs, right?
That's like one of my favorite episodes we've done, because it's so insane.
So only 6 years after the courthouse was built, so we got a brand new building, okay? But this infamous trial did not end in a capital punishment, but it was tried at the White County Courthouse, the brand new courthouse, okay? So remember, the murder, are you guys leaving? You're not even listening to one at this point. Bye.
They have important places to be.
Have fun. Bye. Make good choices. Drive carefully. Really drive carefully. Okay. So, anyway, we're talking about the Cobbites. So, remember Carter Humphreys got beheaded by the Dovers because he was like, you guys are a cult, and then he got beheaded, remember? So, Carter Humphreys gets beheaded by the Cobbites, and then the town, it becomes a mob, and they go out there, and then the mob ends up killing the Pastor Dover, who was a Cobbite. He followed her Cobb. Okay, so remember all that. So, now, they arrested all the Cobbites, okay? But the Cobbite dude, the Dover guy, he got killed, and then his son-in-law got killed? So yes, so all these Cobbite people, which is the Dovers and the Nelsons, they got arrested, and they were tried at the White County Courthouse. But they had, remember, the Cobbites killed, the Humphreys dude, with beheading them, but then they got killed, and so they ended up deciding that no one was guilty.
Didn't the head end up on a stick or something?
Yeah, allegedly they ended up playing with it in the yard and kicking it around.
Oh, goodness.
I'm sorry, allegedly.
I just knew about the stick part.
Dr. Murphy said it in his book. Okay.
I just knew there was some, Lord of the Flies crap happening up there.
Nobody's seen that book. So they were acquitted, so that trial was a huge to-do, and nobody was actually, guilty, found guilty. Okay, so Muncie's book also states that, we talked about this, the bridge, I ran ahead. So, the guilty man, when they did find someone guilty, he would have to, ride on his own coffin down to the hanging tree. And people
Oh my gosh! That is the worst. That is the worst image ever. Did we have the bobsled in his coffin down there?
No, so he would ride, like, in the buggy on top of his coffin, and he would, like, wave at people. It was always amazing to speak, though, by the way.
Worst parade ever.
I think they thought on him and committed murders back then. Sorry, dudes. But, so then they wanted to kill him. So anyway, so then they're waving at him, and he's getting paraded around, and then they take him and hang him. Okay, so this is going to be something interesting coming. Okay, I'm going to do a story on it. But anyway, at the public pool, they were killing people and waving. So,
Not at the public pool, sorry.
it's the same thing.
The spot where the pool is now.
So what is said to be one of the last hanging? This is said to be the last hanging, and it happened allegedly in April of 1886. So they said a man named George Carroll was sentenced to hang because he killed his wife by drowning her in a well. I'm not going to tell you too much more, but there's a lot more, and I'm going to do a separate episode just on this. It is very interesting and terrible. And very sensational. There's just a lot more to it. But evidently, he was hung in the big oak tree down by the public pool. Okay? So, that was allegedly the last hanging.
Sounds like, all your ghost hunter friends should go down there to the public pool area. Yeah. If there was going to be some hacked off spirits, I think they'd be over there.
And that's pretty much by the Oak Grove Cemetery, too.
Yeah. We may or may not have done some, ghost hunting there in high school, so. But.
What are you talking about?
Like, we get in trouble for it now.
Whatever. No, we wouldn't. We're old. No one cares what we do. It's like 8:30 when we're out. We're like, these people are just crazy. Okay, so next slide, Kaden. Oh, this is just showing. Oh, next slide.
Hey, we made that slide. I thought that was good.
So this is the alleged tree. So this was taken in 1997. They actually posted it in the paper in like 2006. But this was part of what was left of the hanging tree. And this is down by the old swimming pool. The swimming pool isn't there, sadly, anymore. But anyway, so that's them.
I can't believe after all these years I've never done that.
They were at the hanging, honestly. I will be posting on my friend. Okay, so another criminal, listen to this one, this is fun too. Okay, in 1914, another guy, I did not say his name, but he was accused of attacking a young girl in town, and he didn't wish to be hung. So, he decided to jump out the window of the courtroom. And remember where it is? It's on that second floor. So he jumped out of the courtroom, and he fell, and he was injured, and then he died. So, he wasn't hung. He died. Okay, so, okay, so an extremely, go on to the next, thank you. Okay, so an extremely infamous case tried inside the White County Courthouse. This was tried in 1975. So this is the state versus Dr. Porter Rogers Sr. And just know, I will cover this. This episode has been requested over and over again. I have read the book.
Has anybody read the book?
Murder and Searcy. It's just been a little, yeah. So I will cover it eventually. But basically, Dr. Rogers was on trial for allegedly killing or participating in the death of his wife. And of course, Dr. Rogers was an extremely valuable part of Searcy. I mean, I think he birthed all
My
your
mom. My family.
all your family, all Travis's family.
There's a lot of us, Travis.
The LaForces, or anybody there? Yeah. So this was shocking. This was a shocking situation because he was beloved, like beloved. He was a prominent doctor. He had his own hospital. He was beloved. This was a terrible situation. So he was convicted of conspiracy for murder. So, yes, and this was 1975, guys. So he was 70 years old. The other conspirator was his girlfriend, Peggy Hell. So she pled out. She turned state's, evidence and, basically got him convicted. So she pled out. She got 21 years. I think I was talking to someone that she probably served 10. I could not tell definitively what she served. So the man that actually killed Dr. Rogers' wife Fern was Barry Kimbrell. So he actually carried out the murder for hire, and he received a life sentence as well. So him and Dr. Rogers received life sentences for Fern's death. Yes. So Peggy ended up living a very long life. She was very young when this happened. She died at 22. She had moved on to Indiana. She got married. She had kids and grandkids. Okay. But Dr. Porter, he died 5 years later in jail. So in 1980, he passed away in prison. And then Barry Kimbrell passed away in prison as well. So he was 49 or so. So yeah, it was shocking.
Yeah, I mean, that trial, like, rocked this town. Of course, we were too young, we don't remember it,
In
but.
1975, you think, we were not alone.
Well, I mean, like, you know, I mean,
Go there.
yeah, I mean, we were alive in the early 80s, so, yeah. But still, people were still shocked by the trial. It was a shocking trial. It was shocking.
I'm shocked by this conversation. I told you I wasn't going to 1990. Okay, so this was, I do remember, worked at First Security for many years, and I remember all the loan officers that had been there in the 70s, like, literally talked about this was crazy. There were reporters everywhere, every day. The trial was a 5-week trial at minimum. It was, if you can imagine, our town was covered. And we're talking national news. We're not talking just the state news. It was nationally covered. So it was a huge deal. Okay, so moving forward, there's another case. So thank you to retired Judge Robert Edwards. So I did get to talk to him. He served as a judge, a circuit court judge, and he covered a lot of criminal trials in his tenure. So he retired not too long ago. He retired in 2020. But anyway, so he talked about the most shocking trial that he worked on, which was one of probably the last, maybe not the very last, but one of the last criminal trials that were tried at the courthouse. Okay? So, and he was actually, Judge Edwards was actually brand new as a deputy prosecuting attorney for Porter Rogers' trial. So he was brand new. I mean, brand new. Like, had just started. And he had to work on this case. So anyway, so he was the prosecuting attorney from 1970 until 1982. And then he worked in private law, and then he was a circuit court judge in 1991 until he retired. So, but what he talked about was a case that did end up in a capital punishment. I mean, a lot of trials do not. So this was a huge criminal case. Okay, so what happened was, this was like 1996. So in 1996, the defendant's name was Jack Harold Jones, and this is going to be a separate episode for you guys. So basically, he was indicted and convicted for the 1995 heinous murder and assault of a woman named Mary Phillips. He had broken into Mary's office. She had an office in Balmain. So he had broken in, and he attacked her and her 11-year-old daughter. And he left them for dead. Now, the police show up, Mary is dead, and they believe that her daughter is dead. And she's not. Luckily, she is not. She does survive. But she was that bad that they thought she was dead. So they're literally taking pictures of the bodies, and they find that she's alive. So, very horrible deal. And again, luckily she survived, and I'm not going to go into too many details there, but I will be covering this in the case. So, Jones was also tied to other murders. So he was a serial killer. He had killed enough victims to be a serial killer. So he was sentenced to death in 1996, and he was eventually executed by the state of Arkansas in 2017. So not that long ago. So it typically takes a good 20-something years to go from one to the other. Did you guys listen to Christmas Killer? Anybody? Christmas Killer? Yeah. It didn't take that long, did it? So So that was horrible. Now, I will say about Judge Edwards, so he was a huge source of information. He's going to really help me out whenever I do eventually cover Dr. Porter Rogers' case. But yeah, so he stepped down. He did help out the current Judge Pate on occasion. And he was just inducted into the Searcy Foundation of Education, the Hall of Fame, like literally last Friday, like a week ago. So that was pretty cool for him. And he was really cool to talk to me. So the courthouse, like we discussed, has been a very central part of town. It's been used for entertainment as well as all the other things. But there have been some unexplained things at the courthouse, okay? You ready?
Oh yeah, I was born ready.
So in 1952, something horrible happened in White County. What happened in White County in 1952?
Tornado. What? Can I? Okay.
Nobody asked. Sorry. Okay, March 21st of 1952, an F4 tornado. An F4, that is like huge. That's like the movie Twister's based on or something. I don't know, it's crazy. It hit the little town of Judsonia. It hit our friend Judsonia. It totally destroyed 385 homes. Okay, it was horrible. It damaged many others. Hundreds of people were hurt, but 112 people died. And we're talking in 1952. So that was a lot. Oh, go on. Cadence? Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, this is Dr. Porter's house. I love this
that
house. His son did have it raised like in 1990. No, was that?
No, it was after
2006.
2000. Yeah, something like that.
This house was beautiful. It's right on the road. Here's the fire damage in the courthouse. Fire damage. This is still present in the courthouse. Oh, okay, stop there. So that little walkway here, do you see that little door? So this is inside. This is in the attic of the courthouse. This is where the courthouse was actually, like, before they did the wings. So this is like where it ended. But that was after they did the wings, they added this jail. That is a jail. They used that for a little jail in the courthouse when they didn't have room at the other jail, or maybe they wanted them closer. Okay, next slide. I will be posting everything. Okay, these were names, so I don't know if you can see that, but this is on the clock tower area of the courthouse, and some of these dates go back to the 1930s. Some was 2020. Juan Chico, that was 2020, and then Paul Williams was 1931. So, oh gosh. Okay, this is inside the courthouse prisonage. It talks about the 1912 edition. Next. Okay, this is some pictures of the old books. Oh, we got Clue, you got me. This is the courtroom. Oh, right there. So this is Judsonia in 1952. And we're going to talk, Amber's going to talk about that back there.
Well, yeah, I'm going to talk about that house back there. So.
Okay, so this happened in 1952. Are you listening?
No.
So here's the deal about the courthouse. There were so many bodies from the tornado that they had to use the courthouse as a morgue. Okay? There were a lot of bodies up in that courthouse.
I had never heard that before.
I had never heard that.
Linda, had you ever heard that before? Yeah, I've never heard that.
They just did not have room at the hospitals.
Where was it? What hospital was it?
It was
Porter Rogers Hospital.
Porter Rogers, and there was another facility. So, you know, they didn't have that John Neal, the Undertaker. They would have just put everybody in a window. But they didn't. It was horrific. But they had to use the main. We're talking the main lobby where you've gone to vote a lot. They use that as a morgue.
So remember that when you're voting next time. Yeah.
Go check it out. Okay, but here's the deal. So luckily they only had to use it for a day or two, and then like the National Guard sent in their refrigerated trucks. So it was just 24 to 48 hours of bodies. But yes, that happened.
And you do have an episode planned just on the Judd tornadoes too.
Yes, I do. That will be a future episode. You're gonna.
Yeah, I want to do that one too. My great uncle was in it.
You're gonna do that too. Okay. So a different. That was horrific. I hate to joke. We're not joking about death or anything, but it's crazy to think about that.
Well, what I was always told growing up is if that of course there had been another tornado in Judsonia in 1916 that had killed about 25 people.
There were several people just at that same time. That same year was a year of tornadoes, and several got killed in Balmain.
Yeah.
In that same year.
Yeah, but they say that had that not happened, it would have probably been bigger than Searcy. So,
Yeah. So scary. That's very scary. That was very close to home. Okay. So a different 1952 story that I'm going to share from Mr. Wayne. Just a little story. Okay, so they have this little tidbit. So, and we talked about voting, so you did go to vote. Okay? So the courthouse, you would go to the courthouse to vote, and they had he was a deputy sheriff, right?
Yeah.
He was at that time. He ended up being like your friend, and his name was Ray Morris. And so he ended up being the fire chief. He was probably really busy in that. So he told a story about how when people would come to vote, he would have a list, a little list, and there was a 6-foot hedge. At that time, there was a 6-foot hedge around the courthouse, okay? So people had to, there was hedges, there were places to hide. So anyway, so they would go through the hedge, and evidently, some of these people on this list, if you were on this list, you would get a half pint of whiskey? That's where you voted. Anyway. So some people, a lot of basically.
that would help me make decisions quick.
Especially right now. So some people didn't just stop at whiskey. Some people paid for votes by, giving a sack of flour or eggs. The important stuff. Or whiskey. So, yeah. But I thought that was fun. And we're talking the 1952 of it, guys. That doesn't happen now. They don't buy votes. Okay, it's all real fair. So in August of 1956, there was another interesting little tidbit about the courthouse. So there was a medical warning, and this is 1956, that went out to our county and our state. So we were in a very big, horrible medical warning about polio, the polio virus. And that was really big. That was very scary. It was a disease that was very scary. A lot of children contracted polio back then. It was just very scary. So people were flocking. Hundreds of people were flocking and lining up at the courthouse to get their polio vaccination, their shots. Okay, there was 800 in one day. So the courthouse was just surrounded. And this was August of 1956. It said that Henson, the town of Henson, bussed their children over. All their children in Henson got bussed over to Searcy to go to the courthouse and get their polio vaccination. So it was just a very scary disease. It went from, Arkansas had 200 cases in 1956, and it went down to only 33 cases in the next couple of years after that. So the courthouse was very much utilized, in that time frame. It was but polio caused paralysis, long-term side effects, deformities. People couldn't move. So it was very devastating. It was very important for them to get treatments and such. I don't know, they talk about, if you did have polio, you had to get in the iron lung. And you couldn't be near your family. And we're talking children. It was just a very scary thing. So, polio scare. Okay, so now we're in 1975 time period. And there was a fire, we mentioned the fire of 1989. But really in 1975, there was that caretaker. Remember that caretaker? Okay, you remember? In 1989 when the fire hit, he was across the street having coffee.
Oh, yeah.
You don't remember what I was talking about? Okay, his name was S. George Ruddisell, and his wife's name was Hazel. So they actually lived in the courthouse. There are people living in the courthouse. I never knew this until a month ago. Okay, so they lived in the courthouse. They said probably, their son said between probably 1975 to 1989. So when the fire happened, after that they had moved out shortly thereafter. Okay, so they actually lived on the 3rd floor of the south wing. Okay, so they were on the 3rd floor. Cadence, next picture. I think we'll get to it. This is the lobby. This was the morgue, the makeshift morgue. This is more pictures of Judsonia. These are the stairs. So when you're talking about the 3rd floor, you're going up there. Yeah, Oh, there's me. Nice. And, oh, back. Cadence back. Right there. Okay, so I'm up there on the 3rd floor. That was the 3rd floor, wasn't I? I think it was on the 3rd. So they had an apartment on the 3rd floor. Now, Judge Michael Lincoln, he had offices up there on the 3rd floor, but that's where they lived. Now, I do have a fun story that they said that I could share. So, George, I'm going to call him George. So, he lived there, he worked there, he was the custodian, he took care of everything. Well, he liked guns, okay? He liked guns. So, sometimes he would fire his gun in his office in the basement. And he had a little .22. So funny. It turned out funny. But he had a little .22. I had to look that up. And he would fire it into his, there's a phone book. If you're really young, you don't know what a phone book is. It's like Google, but it was like a phone. With phone numbers. I love phone books. They were so fun. Okay, so he would fire his little .22 into his phone book in his office. He would do this. No big deal. All the time. Okay, so then he had a .33 that he had, another gun, a bigger bullet. It fires more. It's just bigger. Okay, so he decided he'd shoot that into his phone book, the .33, because the .22, that wasn't funny. So he shoots this .33 into the phone book. So even to this day, the men's bathroom that's down there, it goes through the phone book and into the men's bathroom and ricochets around. And a man is in there. And the man is screaming. And George is flipping out. And luckily for George, and luckily for the man, he's not dead. So George decided to not shoot guns at all anymore in the courthouse basement. I know. Who would have thought that would be a bad idea? Anyway, moving forward. So that happened. Good times with George. So George also did have hunting dogs down in the basement. He had beagles down in the basement. His son, and I'm looking at Travis because Travis remember that, but his son confirmed that. So there were a bunch of beagles down in the basement of the White County Courthouse.
But it's still terrible.
And you could get shot in the back.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Okay, so, yeah. Okay, the other stuff about it is, here's the other deal. I have some more tidbits, and I'm tired. So, let's finally talk about Clyde. Does anybody know who Clyde is? Anybody? Who is Clyde? No? Okay. Clyde is the White County Courthouse ghost. He has a name. His name is Clyde. Nobody knows where he got the name, but a custodian that worked in the White County Courthouse, his last name was Vickery. So and this is pretty recent, so he gave maybe the name Clyde, or maybe it just happened, or maybe Clyde told him, I don't know. But he believed, he worked in the basement, he had an office in the basement, and he believed that the courthouse was haunted. He heard everything from children laughing. I don't know why it's always.
There's nothing creepier than ghosty children laughing.
I know. I mean, the laughter of little children's nice, except if they're, not there. So, children laughing, shadow people, noises, door slamming. So, I have talked to several women that work currently in the courthouse. They've been gracious enough to talk to me about this, and they say that there has continually been weird things in the courthouse, unexplainable things.
Not just the people coming in there.
Or gunshots fired in the bathroom. Or, hey, what about that cigarette and accelerant in the bathroom?
Why are you looking at me?
Why are there all these bathroom situations? Okay, anyway. So, yes, so they have heard things, so there is a clock. If you walk into the lobby of the White County Courthouse, there is a clock on the wall. And allegedly, that clock, Clyde likes to play with that clock. That clock comes off the wall. And it is like a heavy-duty clock. It shouldn't come off the wall, but it does. So, explain that. So, is it haunted? Yes, it was a morgue for to this day in the courthouse, okay? I do have one little thing. So there was I think he was a sheriff that works in the courthouse. He shall remain unnamed. But he said that he didn't experience anything in the courthouse, but he did work at the Wilbur D. Mills building, which is just, does anybody know where that is? Right over there, okay? It was the original post office, yes. So he said that he worked there in that court a lot, and he would smell pipe tobacco when nobody's like smoking, nobody's allowed to smoke, like the smell of pipe tobacco all the time throughout that courthouse. I mean, is it residual? Is it just there from all those years of smoking indoors? I don't know. Who knows? So, that's all I got. Good. On that.
Yeah. Yay.